Hello there and welcome to a video from cloudvapinguk.co.uk. I'm Peter, and what I'm going to be talking to you in this video about is to try and explain the difference between STL, straight to lung, or some people call it direct to lung, and MTL, mouth to lung. And most vapors start off as mouth to lung vapors. The most basic starter kits, which is the pen style kits, they're effectively mouth to lung, and mouth to lung more mimics what you are used to when you smoke an e-cigarette, in the fact that you take a drag or a puff on a cigarette, so the smoke goes into your mouth and then you inhale it. So a little bit like this. And that's effectively how you mostly people will smoke a cigarette. Now then, so when you first start using an e-cigarette or vaping, then that's effectively what you're going to do. You're going to be using, generally speaking, a mouth to lung device. Now there are exceptions to that. I've got customers who go straight to a straight to lung device, and that's typically even smock starter kits, or everything smock do is straight to lung. So there is a lot of straight to lung stuff out there. So why would you switch from mouth to lung to straight to lung? Well, I'm going to try and explain this by kind of demonstrating it. I've got here a 50 watt Zelos kit with the Nautilus 2 tank from a Spire on here. Now the Nautilus 2 is probably regarded as one of the best mouth to lung tanks on the market. So when you vape from this, and as you, I don't know if you can see that there, just see if I can get that to zoom in on that. It's got a very narrow tip. So when you use this, you're effectively using a mouth to lung device or a mouth to lung kit, and it's the tank that makes it mouth to lung, not the mod, the tank. Now, so when I take a draw on this, now as you can see, even with this, the e-liquid I've got in here is it's called Eternal Fruits from Heaven and Hell. It's a 70-30, so it's going to produce quite a large amount of vapour, because it's a high VG e-liquid. So as you can see, I'm getting a fair, decent production of vapour, even from mouth to lung. And the vapour itself tastes quite nice. Lots of flavour. This particular one is a fruity one with a hint of menthol. I can taste the fruit, I can taste the menthol. Very nice, very smooth. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to switch to a straight to lung tank. Now this particular one is smock, and it's one of the newer ones. It's the smock spirals, and I don't know if you can tell from there, but it's basically a much wider tip. And the reason is, this is going to produce, hopefully, a lot more vapour than an MTL tank. So here, I'm not going to take a draw and then inhale. I'm just going to effectively breathe in. As you can see, or hopefully you can see, loads more vapour. I mean, that's a cloud. We're now starting to produce proper clouds. And the flavour is, well, if the truth be known, to me, the flavour is pretty much the same. I can't see any difference in flavour. So why straight to lung? Why do people want to produce huge clouds? And I think really the only answer is there's no real advantage to clouds. Like I say, in fact, if anything, mouth to lung gives you a bit better flavour because you're holding the vapour in your mouth for a little while until you inhale it. It might only be a split second, but you're holding it in, whereas here, you're breathing straight into your lungs. But there's a compensation for that. Because you're producing so much more vapour, there's more vapour hitting your tongue, therefore you're still getting the same amount of flavour. So, why do it? Well, actually, I mean, certainly most people who do huge clouds don't do it all the time. Some do, but most of them don't. Most have an MTL tank, mouth to lung, for vaping most of the day. This is your go-to tank, if you like. They'll then put on a straight to lung tank when they fancy a bit of cloud. And the only reason I can think of that is on the exhale there is something very, very satisfying about a cloud, about producing that huge amount of vapour. It's almost like you're just getting a little bit of a sense of total satisfaction from a huge cloud. However, I couldn't do it all day. I think it would give us a headache, to be honest with you, having all that vapour inside you all the time. So for me, MTL would be sort of like my go-to tank for all day vaping, and if you fancy a bit of chain vaping and all the rest of it, especially if you're still addicted to the nicotine. And the other point about cloud chasing, and this is a big point, is if you've just quit smoking and you're a heavy smoker, you're probably going to be putting 18 milligrams or 12 milligram nicotine into your tank, especially when you're mouth to lung. You put 18 milligrams in this and then inhale it, you're going to blow your head off, because quite frankly, that much nicotine, you can imagine you've got all that vapour going into your lung, which means you've got a load more nicotine going into your lungs than you get with this tank. So if you're going to cloud chase, only do it with low nicotine e-liquid. I've actually got 0 in these at the moment, just for the purpose of this exercise. So you can see that all that cloud there, if that's laced with nicotine and that's going into your lungs, you're going to get a huge hit of nicotine. So don't do it with 12 or 18 milligram. And in fact, most people don't even do it with 6. 3 milligrams seems to be about the norm. Certainly the customers I have. So be careful with that. But there is a nice satisfaction from a straight to lung tank that you don't get with mouth to lung. And I say that because I have been wondering why, at what point people switch to straight to lung. And I think really it's people who have come off the nicotine addiction and are now looking for something more as a hobby, just to give them something to do with their hands. Let's turn it down a bit. So as you can see, much less vapour, and this is really more smoking like a cigarette when you're doing that. Much less vapour, so therefore, but straight to lung with that huge cloud, there is a satisfaction there. But I think flavour wise, pretty much if you've got a good mouth to lung tank and a decent straight to lung tank, which the smocks all are for flavour and cloud production, you know, the flavour is going to be much of a muchness in my opinion. However, a very, very good straight to lung tank might knock spots off a mouth to lung tank, but we'll cover that in another day. For now though, for all day vaping, mouth to lung for me. straight to lung, just for something a bit different and a little bit of secret pleasure. I think that's the best way to sum it up. Just very, very satisfying secret pleasure is what cloud vaping should be. Thank you very much. See you next time. Bye.